Hi, podcast listeners. Today's episode is called The Solution for Hate. A few months ago, I was riding my bike to the store and I decided for some reason to ride past the home of Dawn, someone I once considered a friend. Even though Dawn lives less than a mile away from me, I haven't seen her in years because, as it turns out, she had been more of an enemy than a friend. In the years we were friends, I was naive. Even though I constantly witnessed Dawn's bitterness at the world and the people around her, I never imagined that I would be on the receiving end of it until one day when I was struggling emotionally and I reached out to Dawn for help and she ghosted me abruptly. Now, this is someone I had spent hours of my life listening to and empathizing with. And the one time I expected reciprocity in our relationship, I did not get it. So when I think of Dawn, I feel hate. When I rode down her street, I also noticed a political lawn sign in her front yard, urging people to vote against an upcoming measure that would help preserve democracy. Of course, that Dawn would be against democracy. She is just that twisted. I fantasized about making my own lawn sign, one that would tell Dawn what I thought of her, and planting it in the middle of the night so it would be the first thing she would see the next morning. I imagined it would say something akin to, "Dawn is a pathetic bitch." I'm not going to lie. I actually considered this and it made me feel satisfied to imagine. What stopped me was the realization that doing so would make me just like Dawn, what we commonly refer to as stooping down to their level. My choice not to respond to Dawn's active hatred of me with my own active hatred toward her was a practical application of forgiveness. You see, we make forgiveness out to be far more sentimental than it is. Forgiveness does not mean we don't feel hatred, but rather is a choice to do what is right despite our feeling of hate. See, feelings are not voluntary. Neither are they right or wrong or good or bad. Hatred is a natural human response to someone who is unsafe, and it is there to give us wisdom, to keep us away. When we heed the feeling of hatred by staying away, it diminishes and it works out for everyone's good. The other option, however, is to foster that hatred, such as by giving in to our fantasy for revenge, such as my fantasy of my own lawn sign. That would cause us to actively hate that person. And this drags us back into the darkness. And we cannot allow the unsafe person to have that type of power. Hatred is corrosive for all who hold it, and we cannot allow the haters to win. The author Madeline L. Ingle once wrote, referencing the example of Jesus, that the greatest display of power is the intentional restraint from using such power. I could not agree more. Hatred creates a strange and unlikely bond between people, and forgiveness is the release of that bond. The word forgive in Greek literally means to release. Specifically, we release the hate that we are tempted to foster, but still allow it to remind us that this person is unsafe. Feelings are messy, and humans often feel multiple, seemingly opposing feelings at one time. I can have empathy for Dawn as I know her own painful story and how it has molded her to become such a bitter person, while I can also feel hatred for her choices to give in to her bitterness and to be unkind. Humans often feel both love and hate for the same person, and these feelings are not mutually exclusive. In fact, it is important to hold all these feelings at once as they help us see the truth about people. People are both victims of evil, and we can have empathy for them, and perpetrators of it, choosing to perpetuate what was done to them onto others, and we can hate that part of them. We see such people as pathetic, which invokes pity. We realize they don't need our hate because they are already filled to the brim with self-contempt. We can see the natural trajectory of their lives as the corrosiveness of their own hate is eating them up and damaging their relationships. Self-contempt divides humans from ourselves, and a house divided simply cannot stand. In humility, I recognize that if I had not experienced the love of my grandfather as a child, I would be a lot more like Dawn, and I am grateful. If I am better than she is, it's primarily for this reason. Finally, I recognize the hate I feel isn't actually at Dawn, but at her persona. I don't truly know the real Dawn at all, and neither does she. What I hate is the false self that she embodies to engage the world. I believe Dawn's core self is just as precious as mine, and it grieves me that Dawn and the world will never know this. I'm realizing that everything wrong with the world is due to a lack of love, which is what we call hate. There's just too much of it. So as tempting as it is to hate the haters, I'd just be adding to the problem. And the solution is love. God help us all. Thank you for listening today.